Let us keep our perspective, gentlemen. Just because there was no sabotage doesn't mean there isn't a conspiracy on this ship.
Wait a minute. Let's be clear about one thing. This evidence may raise some interesting questions. Nevertheless, Darhe'el is going to be sent back to Bajor to stand trial for the atrocities he committed.
What's up, Lore Masters? So I'm going to go ahead and apologize a little bit. I know that this channel was built on Starship breakdowns and lore analysis. So while the scene analyst videos are fun and enjoyable, it's not supposed to be the bulk of the channel, and I intend to have some lore heavy stuff coming up. However, while watching a DS9 episode, there was a scene that touched me and actually brought emotion. This is significant because A, I've watched all of these series several times over, and B, I'm forced to watch so many movies and look at all of the behind the scenes that, honestly, I've become desensitized to things because I know what's going on behind the curtains. So when there's a scene that touches me, I kind of want to talk about it. Let's just get into it. A bit of background here. This is from the DS9 episode Duet. Kira Nerys is put in charge of investigating a war criminal and has hated him for most of the episode. The Major comes to find out that the man in their brig isn't actually the infamous killer of Bajorans that she thought he was. He's just a man, a file clerk that worked under the Butcher. And after having horrific back and forths with this man who pretended to be this killer...
Make sure you tell that to the tribunal.
Oh, I will.
And they'll sentence you to death.
Let them. Don't you see it doesn't change anything? Kill me, torture me, it doesn't matter. You've already lost, Major. You can never undo what I've accomplished. The dead will still be dead.
She didn't understand why he was going to lie. She didn't understand why he lied to her, why he pretended like this was some great thing when he had nothing to do with it. And that's where we're going to start the scene, where she comes in to confront him. We start where Kira has stated that she thinks the man in front of her is one of those filing clerks, not the Butcher of the Bajorans that we've been discussing. This causes him to become more and more irate and irritated with her, and now we're off to the races.
So while our useless office clerks were packing their precious files, I ordered my overseers to begin slaughtering the laborers.
I love this small segment because it's the actors who are saying so much with their actions and their faces while the words mean nothing. Both Kira and the audience knows that this guy is lying. It's simply not possible for him to be who he says he is. You can see on her face how confused and sad she's feeling. She can't understand why someone would be saying all this. It makes no sense. And Maritza isn't saying it because he's proud of what had happened, nor is he remembering it in the way that he's pretending to. He's looking off to the side, he's looking down. He can't look her in the face, he can't look her in the eyes, when that never was a problem before. He's remembering these atrocities from his point of view, and he's ashamed. The even lighting on Kira shows her in the real world, while the lighting is uneven for a dramatic effect and tone with him. It also shows his duality. He's draped in darkness, not because he's trying to hide who he is, but because he feels that he is as guilty as a mass murderer.
If you felt that way about your filing clerks, why did you take Maritza's name?
My plan was to do nothing less than kill every Bajoran in the camp. And to this day, my one regret is that I was not able to accomplish this honorable goal.
While it's a small thing and the payoff is immediate, it's a great point that Kira catches. This man in front of her hates Maritza, and while she keeps trying to push this point, Maritza ignores her. He only wants to focus on the atrocities that happens. He's bloviating. He doesn't want to look in the mirror right now.
You're Maritza, aren't you?
You mistake me for that bug. That whimpering nothing. Oh, you stupid Bajoran girl, don't you know who I am? I'm your nemesis.
Here is probably one of the most powerful parts of this scene. This man hates Maritza, but not for the reasons he's stating. We'll see soon where he goes with this, but ultimately he hates himself because he considers himself a coward. Not because he didn't want to kill Bajorans. He's not a coward in that way. He's a coward because he didn't stop it. Of course, he couldn't stop it. There wasn't much he could have done. Even if he hadn't been a quote-unquote coward, he would have just died like all the rest. But regardless of that, he hated himself for it. He wanted Cardassia to be better. Cardassia wasn't better, and it still wasn't. And something had to be done. For him, simply being Cardassian made him the nemesis of Nerys. I think that this is probably the most honest the man has been the entire episode, at least up to this point.
I'm your nightmare. I'm the Butcher of Galatep.
The Butcher of Galatep died 6 years ago. You're Eamon Maritza, his filing clerk.
That's not true. I am alive. I will always be alive.
From his point of view, the Butcher is alive and always will be. Cardassia did a great evil, and it is a sin of all the Cardassian people, at least for him. And until they atone, nothing can be done about this. There will always be a Butcher alive hanging over the heads of all of Cardassia. The shadows are still surrounding him in this scene. This man, he's in incredible pain due to his guilt. The war had destroyed him. It really shows how Bajorans aren't the only victims of the occupation.
It's Maritza who's dead. Maritza, who was good for nothing but cowering under his bunk and weeping like a woman.
That's sexist.
Who every night covered his ears because he couldn't bear to hear the screaming for mercy of the Bajorans.
The music, the acting, the fact that he can't do anything, he couldn't do anything. At the end of the day, Maritza was a filing clerk, surrounded by people that either felt they were doing God's work or simply were apathetic to what was happening. Maybe he could have helped in small ways or tried to get people out, but if we're all honest, we can't blame him for feeling like there wasn't anything he could do. And the fact that he didn't want to die doesn't make him a bad person.
Covered my ears every night. I couldn't bear to hear those horrible screams. You have no idea what it's like to be a coward. See these horrors and do nothing. Maritza's dead. He deserves to be dead.
Maritza is dead. He deserved to die. This is something that the prisoner truly believes. Maritza, the guy that did the files, was a coward and hid under his bed every night wishing he could stop the pain and didn't. He did nothing. He was nothing. We see the man in front of us completely draped in black, covered in shame. He's hidden. The visuals here show us exactly what he is feeling. He's a bug, as he stated, insignificant. He just needs to go away. Also, while you wouldn't actively notice it, most all of the shots up to this point have been close-ups or mid-close-ups, but when he breaks down, when he finally admits what happened and who he was, it goes to a wide shot. This helps us show his insignificance, at least what he felt. In his mind, he is nothing, and so we're moved away from him so that he's less important to us.
What are you doing?
I'm letting you go.
Security! Get in here!
This is extremely powerful for me. Kira, finally understanding that she is actually dealing with a victim, walks into the shadows with him. She tries to connect. This, of course, scares him. He wants to be there alone. He's afraid of her. Not for what she could do to him. He wanted to die. He wanted her to hurt him. But because she could expose him, and that the Cardassians would still be unclean. He would have to face being a coward while bad men got away with their crimes, which would ultimately mean that Cardassia couldn't atone.
You didn't commit those crimes, and you couldn't stop them. You were only one man.
Oh, no, don't you see? I have to be punished. We all have to be punished. Major, you have to go out and tell them I'm Galdail. It's the only way.
Why are you doing this?
For Cardassia. Cardassia will only survive if it stands in front of Bajor and admits the truth. My trial will force Cardassia to acknowledge its guilt. And we're guilty, all of us. My death is necessary.
He's not wrong in a way. Admitting when your forefathers did something wrong, or admitting when your generation or those before you had done something evil, isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of growing. But how he is going about it is wrong. Just because you admit that something bad happened, if you're innocent, if you didn't do it, you shouldn't be punished for it. I have absolutely no idea how the Cardassian people should atone for their sins, especially when some of them had no wish to be a part of what happened. But I do know, by them not admitting that it did happen, and by governments like the Bajorans and the Federation, by the by, looking at them as duplicitous and evil, it ultimately will be one of the reasons that the Cardassians join the Dominion.
What you're asking for is another murder. Enough good people have already died. I won't help kill another.
She pulled him out of the darkness and into the light, and they're walking away together. They can actually start making both Bajor and Cardassia a better place. However, here's the problem with hate.
Why? He wasn't Darhiel. Why?
He's a Cardassian. That's reason enough.
If at least one person continues to hate someone who isn't guilty, it will make it extremely difficult for others to continue. It's a very telling tale. But these are my thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts on this scene, indeed the episode? Let me know in the comments below.